I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Board of Supervisors of Elections on Thursday, February 20th, 2025. It is now 7:06. Take some roll call. I'm Eileen Leahy, present. Debbie Yatsick,
Here.
Leah Mercer.
Here.
All right, and Teresa Bucklow is with us along with Ashley Leonard. Okay, Teresa, was there any public comments submitted?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Approval of the minutes for January 16th, 2025. I'll be honest, I'm just looking at them now. Liam and Debbie, did you get a chance to look at them?
I did. They looked good to me.
Yeah, I had one question on the minutes regarding the fair election practices under old business. The minutes say no action was taken, but we really didn't do it, right? Because Mitchell was sick and nothing was presented, correct? So it really was like tabled more than no action.
Well, the fair election practices was to talk about the campaign fund report. Or you
Okay, and
don't-
that we deferred. Okay.
Right, so we didn't take any action on it. Is there something else as far as when I'm looking to see with Mitchell?
Yeah, I just didn't want it to look like we didn't do something if nothing was presented, but the campaign finance is in our purview and we deferred that.
Well, okay, but it's just the minutes are just reflecting that we didn't take any action on it. Doesn't mean that we didn't review something or talk about it.
That's all that was the only question I had.
All right. And I know in terms of the attendance chart that went with the annual report, I did update that and submit that report.
Thank you.
They look okay to me. Just taking another quick look. All right. Well, if they look okay, could I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve the minutes from January 16th, 2025.
I second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. All right, so Regina was off today, so I don't have a specific report from her. Teresa, is there anything you want to bring up or?
No, not at this time, Eileen.
Okay. Ashley, the monthly question, is there anything on the MOU?
No, there is
Okay.
not. The last, we have been doing periodic check-ins. The last we heard is that they're still waiting for the state to do something definitive. And frankly, there is legislation in the works right now at the state level about this very issue. So that might be holding it up.
Okay. All right, well, we'll just keep following it.
Yeah, well, I mean, about monthly, I do try to send a, hey, what's up, any news type of thing.
Okay. Well, they're starting to send us stuff, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, they are acting as though they will assist us. So yeah, they haven't indicated that they're not going to be assisting us at this time.
Okay. All right. Okay, on to new business. We'll get into the certificates of candidacy. So our first one is a certificate of candidacy for Alderman Frank Thorpe, Ward 8. Any comments on his paperwork?
It looked okay to me.
I concur.
Okay. I did think with that we will have to verify, at least when we put the name on the ballot. Didn't we have this discussion last month about nicknames? Like Fred versus Frederick, Frank versus Francis. And I think it came up with last month.
It
Um,
did.
So I think we just have to verify. Teresa, if you could find out from Mr. Thorpe if his,
Eileen,
okay.
Mr. Thorpe is
Oh, there he
present.
is. Oh, there's Frida. Okay.
Yes, I may look like Frida, but I'm really not.
Okay.
I wish I was. So my legal birth certificate name is Frank.
Oh,
Okay, so it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I I have, if it does have to be legal name, I'm the fourth, but I leave that off.
Right. We don't usually add suffixes.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay. All right, good. That answers that question. We're good. All right. Any comments, Debbie or Liam?
nope.
No comments.
No. So can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the certificate of candidacy for Frank Thorpe for Ward 8.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so moved. Welcome aboard, Mr. Thorpe.
Thank you very much. It's a
Congratulations.
great process, so thank you all.
All right, next certificate of candidacy is for an alderwoman in Ward 4. It is for Janice Elaine Alsop Johnson.
Looked okay to me.
I agree.
Okay, so do I. So do I have a
Motion.
motion?
Sure, motion to approve the certificate of candidacy for Janice Lane Alsop Johnson.
Second,
Second. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, so moved. All right, well, that was easy. So we have 3 more candidates. Moving along. Okay, next item on the agenda is Anne Arundel County request.
Wait.
Keanu?
Oh, I'm
Keanu?
sorry. I missed, you know what? I checked him off before I even finished.
Well,
I'm
because we
sorry.
know him. I
I'm
mean,
sorry, Keanu. I just was making assumptions and moving along.
It's because we're mad at you, Keanu, for dissing us.
Nah, it ain't a diss, Debbie.
All right.
Them-
Any comments from on Keanu Smith Brown's
I I think I know Keanu's party affiliation. Does it make a difference that it's not on the form?
Anyway,
let's see, I don't have it pulled up.
I don't think you can run if you're not, you can only run as what you are. So I'm not sure if it really matters.
Right.
no, it should be filled out.
What we can do is have Keanu Smith Brown state his affiliation, and then if you can come in and add it. Will that work, Ashley? And then we can still move forward with it tonight?
Yes, that's fine. Just have him state it on the record.
Okay. So Keanu, if you could state what your political affiliation is.
Sure. It is going to be as a registered Democrat.
Okay, great. Okay, so for the
Not acceptable.
You know,
so
hard.
we know that, and if you could get in within the next week and add that, that would be great. And then Teresa, if you could let Regina know that he'll be coming in to add that to his certificate. So if the rest of the board is comfortable with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the certificate of candidacy for Keanu Smith Brown.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, so moved.
Honored. Loves and
All right.
blessings, y'all.
Congratulations.
All
All
right,
right.
good to see
Bye-bye.
you.
Good night.
Good to see you too. Good night.
Bye.
All right, sorry about that. So we're back to the Anne Arundel County request for approval from the City of Annapolis Board of Supervisors of Elections for the following. Hopefully you had a chance to look at this. We're looking at the provisional ballot application proofs first, and then envelopes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the phone numbers and the addresses are correct. The phone numbers and addresses all matched up on the packet that was sent, but I'm on travel, so I didn't check that the PO box and the phone numbers, I assume they're correct, but one off, one little thing wrong will really make a mess. Did you look at those, Teresa, or to make sure that the PO box and the phone number is the right one?
Well, we're first looking at the provisional ballot packet.
Oh, okay. So with that, the only question I had was, under why am I voting a provisional ballot? It says, it usually happens if you're not registered to vote and you did not provide ID. But it doesn't require a photo ID. And I thought the initial, if you don't do it at the MVA, with your photo in person, I thought that you needed a photo ID to register to vote your first time. And the provisional covers people who are not registered to vote, but it gives them options of what to provide. And some of those options do not include a photo ID. Is that right, Ashley? Under why am I voting a provisional ballot? You're not listed. You did not provide ID. So you must provide ID to your local board of elections. And it could be a copy of a current Maryland driver's license or passport, but it could also be a utility bill, a bank statement, or a paycheck. And those don't have a photo on it.
I honestly don't know off the top of my head. I know, though, that not everybody who would be of age to register would necessarily have an ID. So you have to have some alternatives. And those sound like ways that other things are verified, but I'd have to look at it more. But I mean, in theory, you could have people who are old enough to register who do not have like a passport or a driver's license issued.
Right, but they could have a government issued photo ID. So I think the
They
question really
could, but they
has is-
don't necessarily, they don't have to get one of those. That's not a legal requirement that you get an ID.
Well, schools, if you're in high school, don't high schools have photo IDs?
Not legal ones. They would just have whatever
But
a
at
school
least
would.
it would match up. We just need to match up a face and a name. It doesn't have to be legal if it's a document that has a face and a name on it. It could be a Board of Ed, it could be, I mean, I think that would be as good as a bill, a utility bill. I mean, they have to show something. If they don't have an ID, they're not going to probably, if they're that young, they're not going to have a bank statement or a utility bill or a paycheck. Maybe.
Well, isn't the question is the minimum standard of photo ID for Annapolis? Like, what's the standard?
Well, we're looking at the I mean, that's what we're going over now for a provisional ballot, which should match up with.
I mean, honestly, it should match whatever the state requires.
Right, I mean, they handle the registration. I don't recall that our code has anything specifying about voter
Yeah, our
registration
code doesn't have any language to it. Registration is handled at the state level, so it would be whatever the state would require.
Okay.
Okay, but this is for voting in a city election, and it's saying that they're not registered to vote. And
right, but we don't do the registration process. So
okay.
from my personal opinion, is because the city does not actually register voters, we can't specify what the requirements are for registering voters. because we're not part of that process. So we can't dictate how a voter would be. If we're using the state registration process, then we have to go by whatever they consider as appropriate for identifying someone. So that my recommendation would be whatever the state requires for identification, that's what we should be requiring, because we don't have any code language one, and we don't have any process by which we register people.
Okay, because then on our City of Annapolis provisional ballot application, it says you're voting a provisional ballot because you're not registered.
Yeah,
and you
that's state,
provide
that should be
ID.
state language.
But it says you must show ID because you are voting for the first time in the City of Annapolis and have not yet met the ID requirements. So this is what you must provide to us, to your local Board of Elections. To vote in the City of Annapolis, you must provide a current Maryland driver's license or MVA issued ID card, a student, employee, or military ID. So a student ID does comply, employee ID, US passport, or a copy of a bill, a bank statement, a check, or another document with your name and address on it. So we've got to match up name, address, and the person to allow them to vote in a city election. And this is just saying to vote in a city election, this is what the local Board of Elections requires.
Right. But again, we are piggybacking a state process. We can't, unless you guys are planning to take over this whole process by yourself, I would legally not recommend that we deviate from how the state does it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the county board, which is part of the state, is the one who's going to be going through all of these initially. So any changes you make are going to make it harder for them to help us.
Right, and we don't have a stipulation in our code. If we had a stipulation in our code saying photo ID, that would be different.
Correct, but we do not. And these are the state provided. I mean, this, like I said, you can make your own decision, but the more changes you make to differentiate city election from the state county process, the harder it's going to be for them to run our election with us, and the less willing I would think that they're going to be willing to do parts of it, which is going to put more onto you guys to do. And we legitimately don't have any way to register people or to check registration. All of that gets run through the county board.
So I wonder if we should add on here on this, why am I voting a provisional ballot, that they need to register with the state, that they don't need to register with us. They need to register, through the, get on the state voter list. But I mean, this is why people wonder and lose faith in elections, is if we cannot match a person and a name and address. And I know signature verification is difficult. I get that it changes, and that would be hard to match up, but a face is reasonable. And it would, I think the electorate, the majority of voters are fine with voter ID. So that is something we can think about. I know we just went through the process, but we can think about adding for city elections, a proof of identity.
Well, that's what all this stuff is proof of identity.
They just have a different
yeah, I mean,
standard.
and to be
But
perfectly
without
honest, these are legally recognized ways to establish identity.
But there's no face involved at all.
It's not required.
It's not required.
I know, but how can you match up? I mean, if the person is one person, that's that's what needs to be matched up with the name
Right.
and
I
the
mean,
address.
Debbie, I hear what you're saying, but that's an argument or a proposal for a
Okay.
level that we're not at right now. I
Right.
mean, tonight we're being asked to look at what the current protocol is and what the current application instructions include. I mean, certainly that can be looked at again at a later date. It certainly can be worked up through the legislature.
And I think I did bring it up before, and Ashley said the same thing, and I
Well,
let
I
it
mean,
go, and now
well,
it just every time I see it, it hits me.
the
Yeah.
reality is, whether you want it or not, is that legally we do not require people to get photo IDs. There are lots of people out there who do not have photo IDs. And so you have to provide an alternative. Now,
Okay, thank you. I
and
think most people do have one.
most
but-
people do have them. It won't be an issue, but you do have to provide an alternative.
Okay.
Yeah, I think unless the city council of Annapolis had code that asked for photo ID, I think I don't feel comfortable deviating from the state guidelines or provisions.
Right, I agree.
Okay.
The only question I had, and I think I had this before, is they use the word precinct. And we use the word ward, but
You could ask them to change that.
that was my question, was just the precinct in terms of making, so it wouldn't be confusing to voters. If Regina was here, she would probably know the answer to that, because I think it has come up before, even though we're in a ward, but I think the whole city is only in like one or two precincts.
So I'm curious though, this isn't saying that they like this could be triggered if they have not voted. I mean, if they had voted in a state election in the 2024 election, none of this would, right, and had provided ID at that time, that would be sufficient because it's running through the Maryland system. Right. So that is on the precinct. So it is like they haven't voted in their Maryland precinct. I mean,
I would say
but
the majority of provisional ballots that we will see at Canvas are people that voted outside of their ward. People that live in Ward 2 and were on their way to work in Ward 6 and went into Ward 6 polling location and said, I'd like to vote. And they're going to say, you can either go back to your home ward and vote there, or you can vote here by provisional ballot. And in
I
that
understand
case,
what
they
you
would
mean.
they'd only be able to vote for mayor. They wouldn't be able to vote for their alderman. That's the vast majority of provisional ballots we're going to see.
No, I understand what you mean. I rescind my comment. I didn't read it closely enough.
Yeah, there's a
I
couple.
understand what you
but,
mean.
I mean, there can be people that are coming in for the first time, especially if they've moved here and all. I've just highlighted the sections where I see precinct. That was the thing that I noticed the most on the first page. And then on the second page, I think it popped up. And the other two, that was yeah, but that was okay for me. So Ashley, could we vote on this and just, if we need to change precinct to ward, we can do that at a later date, or should we just hold it?
I would vote and approving with the request that change be made, I guess. Because I know we do need to get these done sooner than later.
Maybe we could say if the change is appropriate, that it be made to the ward. If they say, no, it's precinct is the appropriate one.
Yeah, that works.
Does that make sense to you all?
Yes.
And I'm just making sure what else is. confused. I'm just making sure we've got everything because there's 2 packets and lots of papers. Okay, so at this point, we're just looking at the City of Annapolis Board of Supervisors of Elections, the provisional ballot application and instructions, and it's 2 pages. So that's what we're considering voting on now. Okay,
Okay.
so the motion.
Motion to approve the City of Annapolis Board of Supervisors of the provisional ballot application and instructions with the request to change precinct to ward if appropriate.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so moved. All right. Thank you, Liam, for
It's a mouthful, but we
putting
got
that into words. Okay, the other. So those are the proofs. I also have. Okay. So insert ballot. Okay, that was part of it too. Was there any comments on the insert ballot in envelope?
No.
Sorry.
Mm-mm.
Let me see, I don't think it had precinct on it. I always love reading Bread and Roses Party. So, all right, so can I get a motion to accept the insert in envelope?
I make a motion that we, Board of Supervisors of Elections, approve the insert ballot in envelope draft.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, aye, so moved. Okay, so those are the 2 components. So the 4th piece that we have with that looks like it is for official use only. So this must be just the election judge, election director, their board of action, their actions and stuff. So that's this page. Any comments on this page?
No.
Nope.
Shall use only, no, yes.
It looked pretty pro forma.
Yeah, that's what I figured these were from past.
Right. Okay. All right. So if we got a motion, we'll go ahead and take care of that.
Motion to approve the for official use only portion of the insert ballot and envelope, or yeah.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
So moved. We have that packet taken care of, and then we have the outgoing envelope and return envelope proofs. So Debbie, I always love that you're the stickler for detail, and I have to say, I did not check the post office box. I think it's the correct one.
I mean, everything's consistent, but
Right.
I just didn't go to the.
We haven't changed it. We've kept that
Right.
post office box has been kept open since I think 2015.
The phone number.
Right, and the phone number I know is okay, because that's your number, right, Teresa? 263 number.
263-7829.
It's I have 7929.
Is that your number, Teresa?
I'm looking, what page are you on?
We're on the
What's that
privacy flap.
I'm
It
sorry.
lists the number for contact 410-263-7929. And I believe that's one of the numbers in the clerk's office.
7942 or 7929. It's correct.
Okay. Just double checking these.
They all look good to me.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right. Debbie, any comments?
Nope.
All right, we'll move those through.
Motion to approve the envelopes and return envelope for the mail ballot
Okay,
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so moved. All right, we're just speeding along. Okay,
Debbie
so
said 1 hour.
I'm sorry, what?
Debbie said 1 hour.
That's
I
right.
should be crying downstairs.
So, all right, so on the next order of business, I just wanted to give a quick review or feedback. I met with the city council today for a work session on the upcoming elections. In attendance were Alderman Huntley, Alderman Savage, Alderman Gay, and Alderwomen Rondell Pindell Charles and Alderwoman O'Neill. So we had, a good meeting, went through, answered a lot of questions, which I think was the purpose of the meeting, was to make sure that they understand the new code changes. And there were a couple of questions that came up, really having more to do with not the current elections, but moving forward in the future, as far as, ranked choice voting came up. Briefly nonpartisan, Alderman Savage asked about moving the date of the primary up so that it would be more like in June or July. That has come up before in the past. He did make a direct ask to have us ask the Office of Law about the status of the Hatch Act. And I had said at the time that when it had come up before in the past, I believe that Mike Lyles, the city attorney, had said that the Hatch Act would probably, or would not apply in probably most cases with candidates who are federal workers. And usually what we've done in the past, if people have asked that question, we've instructed them to talk with their Hatch Act, the person in their area of employment, about the Hatch Act, that they're the ones that know the ins and outs of that. So I'll follow up. I'll follow up with that. So it was a good meeting, not really any comments offhand. Let me just look at my notes real quick. One of the things I did, tell them is that, we are willing to take on, some other research, look into some other things, and did mention that, in the original resolution concerning the task force, the original resolution had the task force recommendations coming to the board. And then we were going to report to the city council, and that was amended and changed. And so the recommendations go to the city council. So we've addressed the three things that specifically mentioned the board of, which were accuracy of voter rolls, which we're incorporating into our communications. The other one was, can't remember the three.
Sure,
Ballot
expansion.
questions was one. And then the third one was,
The one about the size of the board.
Yeah, expansion.
well, so the three that the task force specifically focused on us was placing questions on the ballot, best practices for accuracy in voter rolls, and doing a searchable database of campaign contributions, which has been, I think, communicated to IT. Certainly, doing the expansion of the Board of Supervisors of Elections, we can certainly work on drafting that. But again, it's kind of one of those gray areas as far as, do we initiate that and bring it to the board, bring it to the council, or does the council say, hey, board, we'd like for you to do it?
I thought Arnett or somebody, I thought maybe soon after the Charter Review Commission submitted their report, one of the aldermen, I thought, started to draft legislation for expansion. It might have been Alderman Arnett.
It was.
Yeah.
But the challenge was that there was no procedure or process accompanying it. And so at the time, the Board of Supervisors of Elections asked them to hold and not vote on it until there was a process in place, since it was going to be a charter change. And that follow-up didn't come out of the council. So anyway, maybe some things percolated. That might be one of the things that we may be asked to do. It certainly doesn't affect anything with the 2025 election, but would set it up for, for when we're replaced in March. So that was one thing. Other than that, we didn't get really into a big discussion or debate about going into syncing with the elections. There's pros and cons. It was raised. Another issue was, is there a way of, with the unaffiliated voters, another way of addressing, or another way of allowing them to register to be a candidate without having to get a petition. We could certainly research that and see if there are, how other jurisdictions or municipalities handle that. I just said it's 100 signatures for alderman or alderwoman and 500 for mayor. One of the advantages is that an unaffiliated voter does not need to go through a primary process. So if you're going to even the field, you may have to even that out too. And of course,
May I ask who brought that up?
Alderman Savage. So, I kind of made the comment that I guess that sets us up for ranked choice voting if we were to make it all even. But so it was a good discussion. It went for about an hour and not quite an hour and 15 minutes. And then Mitchell, who's going to talk with us in a minute, also did bring up the communication and voter education plan, and they seemed very, very pleased with that.
Well, thank you, Eileen, for representing us there.
No problem. So it is, was taped. I find it interesting that for probably the first time I've already gotten 3 inquiries about things that, or comments. So, I'll follow up on those.
3 comments from outside of the council or from within the council?
Outside. There's one comment on Facebook, one personal comment from someone, and then I did get an email from someone just asking for the source. Wasn't really anything more, but just asking for the source of something I said.
Gotcha.
All right. I have nothing else. Any other new business? I guess we didn't do a special motion for changing the agenda. Liam, I know that you sent out a spreadsheet in regards to legislation regarding elections at the state level. And so that's really just going to be for information only at this point. But I do appreciate that you did that. And there's a lot of interesting topics. I was kind of surprised by how many there were.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about that a little bit, or?
Well, we really
Next
can't
meeting?
at this meeting without having it. It was on the agenda and came off of the agenda. So we can't really talk about it as such, but we can certainly just review it on our own. And then maybe at our next meeting, we can discuss a little bit more, and we'll have more information at that point too.
Excellent.
So we'll have, when is the last day that they can put legislation in?
It's already passed, although there may be I think there's special ways that you can still get around it, but the formal date is passed for both
Okay.
the House and Senate.
Yeah,
All right,
and
so we'll have even some more information. There's really nothing, I mean, unless there was something we strongly wanted to talk about, but we'll put it off for another month. All right, moving on to old business. I see that Mitchell is on our call to talk about the voter education and election communication plan. I think everybody got that. And just want to stress it's a draft. So, Mitchell, thank you for coming to the work session today. It was pretty well received, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it went well.
Yeah. All right, so you want to give us a brief overview?
Sure. Josh, can you go ahead and pull up that slide deck? So this will be pretty quick. I'm just going to give you sort of broad overview. As we get closer to the election, more things will be finalized. So just to introduce myself, I'm Mitchell Stevenson. I'm the Public Information Officer for the City of Annapolis. Next slide. Tonight, I'm just going to talk a little bit about our communications plan for municipal elections, which will cover mayor, alderpersons, potentially ballot questions. You all know this. All of our city communications are non-political, so we don't endorse a candidate. We don't send folks directly to candidate web pages. Everything is really about process. So next slide. I have 5 topics I'm going to hit on, basically about voting. What kind of messages do we convey? Again, this is talking about process. Who are our target audiences? Who are we trying to capture when we're sending out messages? How do we create messages that reach a wide audience? What are some of the key dates where we'll deploy our messages? And then a brand guide. And I have some samples that I've already started working on, even though we're not really deploying a lot of messaging until summer. I've already gotten started on some of that. Next slide. And I think you guys all have the PDF of the communications draft, right? You said that, Eileen? Yeah, so this is an overview of that.
Okay, you sent it out, but you sent it out, right, Mitchell? Or-
I sent it to you. I was hoping you would.
Yeah, right. I don't know if I got it.
Okay, I'll make sure you get a copy of it. I sent a PDF earlier today, and so Eileen, I think, has a copy of that.
Okay, I guess I thought you were sending it out to everybody, so will you send it out or should I?
If you would, that would be great, because
Okay,
I
I
don't
can
think
do it.
that I have Debbie or Liam's email address.
Okay, I will do it.
Yep. So again, next slide, Josh, thank you. So in talking about the kinds of voter information that we would send out, we would do voting specific so that our constituents know dates, locations, the requirements to vote, candidate information, what offices candidates are vying for. And then once everybody has, once we have the filing deadlines are closed, here are all the candidates for the offices, and sending them back to the Board of Elections website where they can get the candidate information, contact, website, all of that. Again, we don't push that out on our city social media channels or through our press releases or any of our communications about specific candidates. Election process, how can voters cast a ballot? I know we're not doing early voting in the city this year, but mail-in, in-person, drop box, just walking them through the process.
Mitchell might have frozen.
I think we lost you. Looks like she
Uh-oh. Yeah, she
froze.
froze.
I'll call her on the side really quick.
Okay, thanks, Josh. One of the things that did come up in the work session today when Mitchell was talking was Alderman Savage asked about the use of flyers, and that was something I don't think we thought about specifically. We have had flyers that we've put at the libraries and things like that, but he was asking maybe if more flyers could go out, or if candidates could get flyers concerning just the dates and things like that. So that's just something to make note of.
My apologies, I'm back. I lost internet at my house, so I'm
Oh,
not
dear.
sure what's going on, but I don't have a connection. So,
Oh, you're back.
Yes.
Okay, so where were we? We were talking about voting.
How to cast a ballot.
Yes. So the next slide, please, Josh. I'm so sorry. These are a couple of the different. This is an example from 2021. We had an issue in Ward 3 that voters were confused about the location of the drop box. So this is one of the examples of our sort of rapid response where I went out and drove around the city, took pictures of all of the drop boxes and exactly where they were so that there was a visual, included the address, and we posted this as a social media post just to give, folks information, clarifying information, helping them to navigate where they needed to go. Next slide. This was another rapid response. We had some questions. The the drop boxes had a lock on them, and it appeared that the place to put the ballot was locked. It was not in fact locked, so I went out and took some pictures. That's my finger showing the inside of the drop box. That's where the ballot goes. So those are just two kinds of rapid response deployment. What I'm going to talk about and what is in the communications plan specifically is the kind of messaging that we know we have to deploy. Deadline for candidates to register to be a candidate. Deadlines for constituents to register to vote for the primary and the general. Listing of candidates, all of that stuff. We can do all of that ahead of time. And then the rapid response we just do in real time when there's an issue. So next slide. Talking about our target audience. We are looking really at 4 groups. There may be others, but these are kind of the buckets that I put folks in. Voters, these are the primary group. These are the people that, are already registered to vote. They're just looking for, where do I show up? When do I cast my ballot? We do have a fair amount of drop off for municipal elections from gubernatorial and presidential years. So really just reinforcing those messages. Hey, there's a municipal election in 2025. Get out and vote. Here's how to do it. The next group is potential voters. These are eligible voters, but who may not be registered, or they may have moved or whatever, helping them to know where to go to correct their address, register to vote, all of that, and then giving those potential voters information about municipal elections. The next is community leaders. These are HOAs, neighborhood groups, faith groups, central committees, business, hands-on outreach to them. And then the last group is the media, and we look to them to our message. So we'll put out press releases, and then, hopefully they'll help us to reach a wider audience. Our key messages, we can go to the next slide, Josh. I've got sort of 9 things here. There's a fair amount of overlap, but these are the kinds of things that we're going to talk about: voting information, candidate information, process, the integrity of election, the importance of voting, getting out the vote, day, volunteer opportunities to become election judges. Hey, Josh, can you mute whoever's making that noise? Post-election information, that's the results of the canvas. And then I added this year a section on safety measures. We obviously had a pandemic in 2021, so wanted to make sure that we had a backup plan for, if there were a need for safety or health protocols for our voters to safely get to the polls. Next slide. Oh, and then you go to the next one. Key dates. We've got, these are the scheduled message deployments. These are the key dates that we have to make sure voters are aware of. The filing deadline of July 28th. So we'll be advancing messaging about that ahead of July 28th. We don't just start on the day of the deadline. We, back it up a month or so and tell folks, hey, this deadline's coming up. Make sure if you wanted to be a candidate that you get all your information in. Then August 18th is the last day to register to vote. Then September 16th is primary election day. Then October 6th is the last day to register to vote before the general election. And then obviously November 4th is our election day. Next slide. And this is the brand guide. These are just the fonts, the typography, the colors that we use, just so that there's some standardization throughout the course so that when somebody sees an ad or a social media post that they know immediately that it's about elections. We're just reinforcing what we're putting out into the world. So next slide. And this is just the last section with some social media samples. So we've got that July 28th filing deadline for mayor and council. And then on the left-hand side here, this is what I would put in the social media post. And this gives you an idea of this. I showed you the colors and the fonts that we were using. Next slide. Voter registration deadline, August 18th. just reminding people, and we'll hit these, once a week, twice a week, sometimes, as we get closer to these deadlines. The next one is meet the candidates. And, I've already started putting in some of the candidates that you all have already approved their candidacy. So when that's all done, specifically after you all have, we've got that sample ballot ready to go, I can put something like this out that shows everybody, these are the candidates we have for all the mayor and aldermanic seats. And then the last one is just, I didn't even get very far on this. I didn't even add any little artwork to it, but, deadline to request a mail-in ballot. So just again, reinforcing all of these really process parts of the election process for people, and, hopefully having a smooth and safe election. And then last slide is, that's how you reach me, and I'll take any questions you got.
I like it. Thank you.
Certainly.
One thing I just jotted down, one of the things that we also offer that might be of use to the public is there are a lot of public meetings or things that are open to the meetings. And so if we could add those things, like when we go up to the Board of Elections in Glen Burnie and they do a random test of some of the poll books.
Mhm.
So the public can do that, going through the election boxes and things like that. So when we get a number of those, we don't always know when that's going to be. We have a time frame when we need to do it, but we usually have about a week's notice. So we could always shoot those off, but that might be a good thing just to let people know, hey, there's a public, this is happening on Thursday, August, whatever, and it's open to the public if you're interested in attending. Also, the canvases are always open to the public, and I think a lot of people don't realize that.
100%. And I'm working with and for you all. So when Teresa or Regina have something, or you all have something that I need, messaging that needs to get out to the public, let me know. And I usually try to turn things around as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have one question, well, one comment, and that is thank you so much for all your effort. Joel, it's a lot to do, and we're all really appreciative. The comment would be about the identification of candidates or sharing who's running. And I'm sure you'll come up with a good solution, but there was an independent candidate that wouldn't be in a primary and would be in a general. So just identifying that so that people to kind of avoid confusion. I'm not sure exactly the best solution, but that could be confusing.
From the unaffiliated candidate who won't be on the primary ballot.
Right. So I don't really know what the best way to. Maybe there's separate posts for different,
Well, you could do a post for the primary ballot and then a post for the general ballot.
Like I could just revise the post that I, meet the candidates or whatever. Everything that I link to will just go back to the page that Teresa manages on the city website, which will have everything, all the candidate listings there. But I could do something that's, mayor, and then give all of the candidates for that. Council, give everybody that's going to be on the primary ballot. Then give a, advancing to the general, maybe a little note, a parenthetical or something that just says, unaffiliated voters do not have to run in a primary, and showcase, show those folks.
Right. Well, and if a ward is unopposed, there's no primary.
Yeah, same.
And also just thinking ahead, there can be write-in candidates at the general, but not the primary.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Oh, my internet's back, but
okay. Well, certainly you've expanded on what you did last time, which I think was well received. I did mention while you were while your internet was off that Alderman Savage mentioned about using flyers and really getting those distributed. And I just mentioned that to the others in the group.
Yeah, I do have a question for you all, and that is, will I be allocated a budget in the next fiscal year for, if they're asking for flyers and mailers and all of that, I don't really carry a budget for those kinds of things
Okay,
that we want to do. We should really make sure that that goes into the mayor's request for FY26.
okay. I've made a note and we'll check with, I'll communicate that to Regina, and I think Michael Isles is one that signs off on that, so.
Yeah, and I think I saw on Facebook after we testified today that somebody was saying, please make sure you do the bus ads again, and that is crazily expensive. So I think, 2 buses last year, I think we really need to do at least 4, because sometimes the buses aren't always in circulation. They sit in the.
So you think we should do them?
I don't think so, but.
I mean, they were expensive and I'm not quite sure who we reached.
Can you provide some more clarity on the comment about the buses that you heard?
Yes. Just, please buses again, that reaches people who aren't on social media. We did 2 buses last go around. I think it was around $10,000. I think, and I said this at the last meeting that we had, I think a better value for us would be to do some targeted Google ads, like capture people through location services and deploy those ads. You get a lot more bang for your buck. I mean, you can run a whole campaign for $1,500 and reach tens of thousands of people, where if we do the bus ads, it's, we'll be spending $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. And there's really not any way for us to track it. At least with Google ads, we also get a data set at the end of that. How many people clicked through, how many,
Right.
what happened.
We had put some ads on some of the buses. One of the challenges was we couldn't put it on all the buses, and it might be that the bus that the ad was on may not be running for a few days because they rotate them around. So
Outside wrapping of
the
the bus.
wrapping we could, if I recall, we couldn't do. So we did, what was it? Was the back of the bus.
Yeah.
So which
Go
the
ahead.
original intent was to do it on the side because it would reach more people as opposed to the back of the bus. But it was expensive. It was, I think, a good experiment. But we're not really sure we got enough return on investment.
Yeah. And you know where the bus is going to go. That bus could just be running the Forest Drive corridor. And so you're missing all of West Street and Rao Boulevard and that whole part of town, because the couple of buses that we've selected are.
Well, can we use the circulator? It doesn't go through the whole city, but it does go.
No, we don't do advertise. It's called the Magenta Shuttle now. We don't do advertising.
Yeah. Okay. And that again only hits a certain number of people.
And like I said, there's no real way to track it. You can't, I can't know how many eyeballs sitting in a car at a traffic stop saw the bus. But with Google ads or with, Facebook ads or Instagram ads or something like that, we can track and we know what our reach was.
But if the comment was made by someone who, it sounds like she doesn't use social media, so she wanted the buses. If it's for the outside of the bus because she's walking down the street, that's one thing. But if she's a rider, maybe some flyers in our buses.
We can put posters.
I did include that in the media plan, but we're talking about outside bus advertising, and that's obviously and cards on transit is very, that's very inexpensive, very easy to do.
Right. We also did posters at the libraries, posters at Pitt Moyer, the Eastport Community Center, at all the polling places. And then we had quite a few flyers and some posters that were well received at the Annapolis Night Out in August.
Yeah.
So that was good. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, just one small question about the budget for this and how this is maybe just me being new, but we're proposing a budget and it either gets approved or cut out, things get cut out of it.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight year, I think, for the city budget. But I don't like if what Rob was talking, what Alderman Savage was talking about today, was, making flyers available to all of the alderpersons to distribute, door knocking or door to door or at community meetings or whatever. That's not cheap. It's probably, there's 17,000 households, but maybe 20,000. How many potential voters do we have? Do we know, Eileen?
Well, we have about a little over 28,000 registered voters.
Yeah. So creating 28,000 flyers or 28,000 postcards is not, I have zero budget for this. So
Right. Well, we can find out about ways in which, if there's a template and they have, if they have campaign funds that they want to utilize some of that. But so Liam, we actually don't make our own budget.
Yeah.
The budget comes out of, usually Regina and Mike Lyles, the city attorney, come up with a budget. So it's really just making sure that this is in there. In the past, we've had some wiggle room because we don't always know what the costs are going to be at the end, since the county pays for some of it and then we pay. I do want to touch base with her to ask the county what the election judge pay is going to be, because it was $250 in the last presidential election, $350 for chief judges, but they did a retention bonus of $100 if you had served before. So in trying to get a grip on the budget, we need to find out. We pay what the county pays. So I don't know if, or at least that's what we've chosen to do in the past. So those are some things that we can certainly raise, but we don't get a direct look at the budget right away. But we've had enough money in the past. It's just where it gets designated.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to create flyers, to create postcards and all that, and distribute them digitally, which is free.
Mhm.
If the candidates want to print them out, and that could be doesn't have to be for sitting aldermen. It could be, we could just put them out for anybody who wants them.
Right. Could you put together some numbers for me, Mitchell, so that I can forward those?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I'll posit that I think the bus ads do reach people that might not otherwise see ads, and the bus shelter ads. I did watch Mitchell, I watched the last presentation that you gave to this board before I joined. So I also recognize the value versus how much it costs, or the number of eyes versus how much it costs. So I would love to get it into our budget, and if it can't, I guess it can't.
Yeah. I mean, it's up to you all. You guys tell me what you want me to do. If
We'll put together some numbers and you can include that and we'll go from there. As my father used to always say, if you don't ask, the answer is no.
Right.
So.
That's what I'm getting at here.
the last go around too, and there was a little bit more flexibility with the budget because we had American Rescue Plan funds.
Mhm.
So doing some of those things, didn't necessarily come from city taxpayers. It came from those federal dollars that we got to help support the things that we needed to do as a municipality during a time of, a public health crisis. So it's a little different situation now. We're going to have to go before the council and ask them and get them to make a decision on that. So.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, so if you can get those numbers to me, I'll talk with them about it and we'll see what we can come up with.
Okay.
All right.
Because I'm ready.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay, next item on the agenda. You all are probably tired of seeing it, and it's all on me. The fair election practices. So I did the instructions, or the first draft of them, and as I was doing them, I realized we need to change a couple of things. One change, and I know you all got them. Teresa and I struggled with editing them. They were edited, but we couldn't come up with a version that didn't have all of the sidebars and things like that. So I apologize for it getting out to you so late, but I'm not a tech person. So anyway, we'll try to get you a red line version, which is what we were trying to get you, as opposed to just the crossing out. So if you could just take a look at it, I wasn't really thinking we necessarily need to do it tonight since you just got it, but it does appear that at least the summary sheet, we didn't think there were going to be any changes other than adding some boxes. We may be able to take some of those lines out, because as I was writing them, I was actually going through and trying to do it. So I know, Debbie, you've done a lot of the treasury work before. So as you go through, you'll probably see some additional things. Then the other thing that I had been trying to figure out was how to get the instructions for the fillable form. And I'm going to use the instructions that they used for the ethics committee, but when I was sending this out, I didn't have those in front of me. So it's a draft. It's something for us to start looking at. And hopefully our next meeting, we can get it finalized. Oh, Debbie, you're off. You're muted. Debbie, you're muted.
Yeah, I had a dog barking and a baby crying. So we need to go. So I appreciate we can table this till next month. But when I do, and I did look at it a little bit today, it does, what's so nice is the autofill form box pops up.
Mhm.
So it's very clear that, it's an online form that you can fill out versus, having to print out and fill it out like we had to in the past.
Right.
So,
So the way it'll work is what we did for our ethics report. So it's a fillable form that you can download, fill out, and then you still have to send in the hard copy.
yeah.
So, but I think that will be, I think that will be well received. I did mention today in the work session, to the candidates that we are, they can put in their own Excel spreadsheets, but we request that they use our template, or if they use their own Excel spreadsheet, they follow the columns. So I think in going through it, just visually, the way it's laid out is a little simpler and a little cleaner. So do you have any comments, Liam? I don't know how much you had a chance to look at it.
I've scanned it.
Okay, so that's fine. So we'll try to get a cleaner copy out that may be a little bit more readable. And if I did have questions, I included that in the text. There's really nothing else for IT to be doing except for that summary sheet if we want to take those. I think it's because we took transfers away from one of the schedules. I don't have it in front of me. There's a couple of lines in there that are not necessary anymore. So it actually simplifies the summary sheet. And then the other thing I tried to do with the instructions was just be consistent with each page. So each page says the same thing where you have to put it up at the top. So I try to do that just for consistency. I know it's some redundancy, but in forms like this, sometimes it doesn't hurt to have a lot of redundancy,
Right.
especially for first-time users.
Yeah, no, it looked pretty good.
Okay.
Especially the loan and transfer, that was clear. What was a loan, what's a transfer, what form does it go on? It goes on 2 instead of 1.
Right.
You-
Okay,
you-
good.
That was more clear.
Right. We don't see loans that often, but we do see them. The other thing too is I think we also added a little bit more to the understanding of outstanding obligations, and also the in-kind contributions. So I think having some of the additional codes will also help. So those are in there. It also helps us help to decide, is this an appropriate expense or not? All right, any other old business? Well, we went over your hour, Deb, I'm sorry.
Oh. Gonna scamper down, and it's amazing how many people it takes to take care of a newborn.
You need somebody just to do the laundry.
But yeah, I did that today.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Precious. Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. for
Yeah,
sure.
thank
Any
you.
other business? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that the Board of Supervisors of Elections adjourns at 6. Oh, it's not 6, it's 8.
You're in the wrong time
Yeah,
zone.
I'm in the wrong time zone. 8:16 on February 20th, 2025.
All right.
Second.
Well, thank you all, and thank you for all your review. I know that you got a number of things kind of very quickly, so thank you for getting them all reviewed. And we'll follow up on the things that we follow up.
Thanks, Eileen. Good to see
All
you,
right, great.
Lee.
All right,
Good to
thanks,
see you.
everybody.
Josh.
Thank you, Josh.